Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I also read meditation books over here. Most days, that's what I do. So today I brought with me 3 meditation books. I brought with me The Melody Beatty, Journey to the Heart. I mean, it's kind of more of a serious meditation. And the reason why I brought that one was to kind of balance out the other two. I brought the Daily Book of Positive Quotations, which is a little bit more of a positive meditation that you can apply any day. And then the Meditations for Living in Balance was also another one. So I thought like maybe I would read one of these and the Melody Beatty one, and then we can have like a deep thought conversation, and then we can have something a little bit more lighthearted. So let's start with the Melody Beatty. I have not read this meditation, but I read the title, something about when the road gets rough or something like that. So let's read this, July 8th. Sometimes the road gets rough. Don't be dismayed when you come to a pothole, a detour, a stretch of rough and rocky road. Don't be surprised. Slow down a little. Be patient. It's not the whole journey. It's not the way it'll always be. But it is part of your journey too, part of your journey to your heart and soul. Even when we're living with joy and freedom, we continue to learn, grow, feel, experience. And the road can still get tough or rough. Happiness doesn't mean feeling gleeful all the time. Happiness doesn't mean the road we're traveling is always smooth. Happiness means feeling all we need to feel and accepting each part of the journey, even the changes of course and direction. Feel all your feelings. Feel your fear and frustration about slowing down, then settle in for the ride. You may not be going as fast as you'd like, but the journey hasn't stopped. You're not doing anything wrong. You're going slower, but you're still moving forward. I really, really like this meditation. And in fact, I like the part that it talked about happiness. And that happiness isn't this just, ha ha ha, we're happy all the time and smiling and blah, 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 whatever. And, it's interesting because back in the day when I started watching YouTube, I would watch a lot of these couples on YouTube, and this was prior to me like having a channel or anything like that. And they would always be like, oh, we get along so well, we're always happy, and let's go here, and let's do this, and, like, they would, like, do, like, home reconstruction or remodeling or something, and they were so happy the whole time, and I'm thinking, my husband and I move a couch from one side of the room to the other, and we argue, like, we argue about where it's gonna go, and it just wasn't realistic. It was so phony to me. And then, like, they never talked about problems. I think over time on YouTube, people have gotten more honest and more relatable about stories of their life and talking about addiction and mental health and things like that, or just struggles that they're going through in their life. But back when I started YouTube, that wasn't the case. And I can remember watching a couple of these couples and saying something to Alex about, like, they're always so happy all the time. They just seem so like in love and I was like, is there something wrong with us? And he was like, you're seeing a really distorted view of reality. Like, that is not how most couples are. And I knew that. I knew that from my friends that were couples. I knew that from everything, And the reality is that I had this really distorted view of what happiness was really like, My best friend has been married, I think 35 years now or something like that. She is one of the happiest married women I have ever met in my entire life, okay? Are there times that in the past we would go drive around and get fountain pops and I'd complain about my husband and she'd complain about hers and say like I come home and like it would, yes. But is she happy overall? Is she in love? Absolutely. But I think we lose sight of that sometimes, And I was like comparing my life to other people and thinking, well, they seem so just smiling and happy all the time and I'm not like that. And what's wrong with me? What is wrong with me that I'm not happy like that, right? Already, just so you know, the title of this video is going to be I'm Not Happy. Whenever I do these titles, like I'm so angry and it's part of the meditation or whatever, I know you're probably used to it by now. But anyway, but I really struggled with that. And then I can remember that, like, there was a period of time where, well, my husband now posts all kinds of pictures on Facebook, but he didn't back in the day, And I would say, like, we don't ever post pictures of us on, like, Facebook or whatever. This was kind of before the whole Instagram thing blew up. And he'd say, well, I can post pictures if that's important to you. He goes, but why is that important to you? And I would specifically, like, cite certain couples that we knew that just, they posted every day. We're so happy and here we are and this is what we're doing and blah, 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 whatever. And it was constantly like pictures at dinner with arms around each other, smiling and whatever, you know? And my husband was like, if you want me to put that out there because you want those pictures out there for us, like, that's fine. But let's not do it because it's some phony example of we have this like perfect relationship. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, we're happy. I love you. You love me. Why do you need to prove that to the world? And then it was interesting because I read this article. This is like me getting like real deep with this stuff today. But I read this article, I mean, this is probably 8 or 10 years ago now, probably 10, that said that those couples that post the most on social media are doing it because of the insecurity of their relationship, and they need that validation, and those couples typically don't do real well at long term. What's really sad about that is that we had some very good friends of ours that we met at the time that we started dating, or they got together at the same time that we started dating, or they had been together before, that are no longer together, and they had put up this facade for years on social media that they were the happiest couples in the world. I mean, I literally have been like at dinner with people before where somebody will say, did you hear about, you know, Judy and Joe Smith, that they broke up, they're divorced, and, you know, he's with somebody else and so is she. And I'm like, what? Like, the last time we saw them, they were so happy, you know? Oh no, it was a horrible divorce, you know? Or, you know, it's just, I hear all of this stuff and it just is like, those were couples that at that time, based solely on social media, I have this distorted idea of what happiness is. And I was happy, you know, for the most part, I was happy. And so I think a lot of it was, for me, was I saw what other people had, and therefore my insecurities were based on I'm not good enough and I'm not happy enough as other people. Don't do that. Don't do that, okay? Especially when you are happy at home with your partner or living alone, if you choose to be single, or if you're not with somebody and you're still happy, or whatever your circumstances is, okay? Or with your family you're happy, and maybe y'all fight sometimes, but most times you get along. And I just don't think, by and large, the majority of us out there are really that unhappy on a daily basis. And I think we borrow trouble. I think we borrow trouble and we compare ourselves to somebody else. You know, which is why a friend of mine a couple years ago said to me, we always lose by comparison. And I think it's so true, you know, is that we're always comparing ourselves to somebody else. None of us are going to be happy, smiling, and gleeful every single day of our lives. And like I just talked about in a video the other day, nor would we want to. Because if we were, then we would have, like, it's the bitter and the sweet, right? Like, if you don't have the bitter, you don't realize the sweet. And I've acknowledged that, and I've learned that through the years. I've also learned, like, with my relationship, since I keep on using that as an example, that there are going to be days that are just like, we watch a TV show together and it's just not that deep. And then there are other days that something in our life happens that is really tragic and sad, you know? And then there are other days that are gleeful and happy. And just like life, and just like everything else, our relationship ebbs and flows like that. And overall, we're extremely happy, you know? And we have a good relationship. And it's important to acknowledge that. But for so long, like, I looked at other people's false sense of happiness, and I thought, what am I doing wrong? And it wasn't just with my relationship. It was anything. It was the size of my house, or what kind of car I drove, or what kind of job I had, or what I was doing with my free time, you know? I've told this story a bunch of times on my Peter Likes Books channel, but I'll share it over here real quick. There used to be this, what do you call it, readathon in the summer, and it was called Booktubeathon. And so I started my BookTube channel, and that first year, I really wanted to participate in Booktubeathon. And what it was like at 12 a.m. on Saturday going into Sunday, it started, and it was 7 days, and they would have reading sprints where, like, on Twitter, they would say, read for 30 minutes, and then tell us what book you're reading with emojis, and all this kind of stuff. And there were 7 challenges that went along with it. And it was like, read a book with blue on the cover, read a book that's been made into a movie, read a book that has a song in the title, all kinds of stuff, right? And I had, like, so specifically and deliberately, like, picked out these books. And I was so excited about it, right? And I was so excited to do this, and I had my books on the kitchen counter, and I had bought special coffees and special treats and everything. I was so excited to start this, right? And so it was a Saturday night, and we went out to dinner, and I was like, I had already told Alex, like, he had plans to go out with our friends, Melissa and Jason, afterwards, and I was going to come home, and I was going to start this at midnight, and I was so, I mean, I was like, I'm going to be on the front porch, on my glider, and I'm going to have my books out, and when the starts, I'm going to go into Goodreads, and I'm going to program in all of my books. I was so excited about it, right? Well, we were at dinner, and I don't know how we got talking about something, and they were talking about being excited about hearing some DJ or something. Now, at the time, so this would have been in July, so this was 6 years ago, because I've had my BookTube channel for 6 years, and I'm 50, so at the time I would have been 44, just 44. So we're sitting there, and I'm like in my head, and I'm thinking to myself, you're in your 40s, and your friends are going downtown to a club to hear a DJ, and your corny ass is excited to go home and sit on the front porch. And I'm tearing up telling this story, because every time I tell this story, I realized prior to this how much of my life I lived kind of by the standards of other people, and what I thought was the right thing to do or made other people happy. And so we were sitting there, and they were talking about all this kind of stuff, and they were excited and whatever. And, you know, Melissa and Jason were like, so you're not coming with us tonight? And I was like, no. And Melissa was like, so Alex was telling us you have something that you're doing. And I just kind of sat there silent for a second. And Alex goes, babe, tell them what you're doing. You're really excited about this. And he was probably more excited in that moment than I was. And I was like, no, it's okay. And he was like, no, tell them. You're like super excited. You bought all these treats and coffees and stuff for it. So I kind of told them about it, and they're so supportive and loving. You know, they were like, oh, that sounds really cool and whatever. So I got home, Alex and them, they went downtown and went out. And I was sitting there, and it was like 5 till midnight. And I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I mean, I almost like brought my books back in and put them on the bookshelf. I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is stupid. Like, this is so stupid. Like, no person in their 40s is this excited about, like, a book readathon. Like, what am I doing, right? I wish I could tell you that that was the first time in my life that I had felt like that, but that's not the case. I had felt like that so many times in my life, where I felt like everybody else is, like, the cool kid at the cafeteria table, and I'm the loser. Like, I have felt like that so many times in my life, and changed whatever I was doing, even in my adult life, because I wanted to be the cool kid at the table, right? Because I never was. And so I still had that feeling inside that I was always on the outside looking in. I have felt so much of my life, even in the last 10 years, like I was on the outside looking in, right? And so I was sitting there, and it was like 5 till, and I was like, I'm just going to take these books inside. This is so corny. What am I doing? And I looked at my phone, and it was like midnight. And I just was like, I just kind of started putting my books into Goodreads. And I was like, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And I had such a blast. I just had such a blast, you know? And that first year was so fun and so exciting for me. And I did it several years after that. And I don't do it anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. But I've done other readathons since then. And I had such a good time. And I would sit out there, you know, and it was like, I would like make this special kind of lemonade, or I can remember that. I had this sassafras, I think it's called like Pappy's Sassafras or something like that, and I would drink this sassafras tea, and I would read these books. I had such a good time, you know? And I was truly happy in that moment. And I'm really happy that I did that and overcame my own insecurities. And to most people, maybe it just sounds like a readathon, but to me, it was such a deeper lesson than that. It was like, I have to live to the beat of my own drum. I have to do those things that make me happy, and not be worried about everybody else, because I have been for so long. I have been so worried. Well, not so much today, but so up to that point, and even years after, I was so concerned with what other people thought about me. You know, and like they say, like, I can't control what other people think about me, and it's really true. The real joke on me is I got it way too late in life. I can't sit here and still say that I don't care somewhat what people think. There are people in my life that I do very much care what I think, you know, my husband, my dad and stepmom, you know, my cousin, my best friend, my sponsor, friends of mine. I do care what they think. And a little bit I care, I mean, I care a lot of what the people that watch my videos think, not the ones that hate me so much, but you know, there are people out there I still think like, you know, I would like to be, I think often like, when you're looking back on your life, what is it that you would want people to think about you? And it's interesting because that's changed for me in my life many, many times and over the years. And I think today it would be I don't know, that maybe I impacted somebody's life in a positive way, even if it was just a small way, you know? Or maybe I made somebody think about something different. It doesn't have to be any large scale thing. Some of the people that have impacted me the most are just with one line, you know? I can remember being at a meeting years and years and years, 25 years ago probably. I don't even remember anything else about this woman, but she never came to our meeting, and she's never come since. And I almost kind of think it was a God thing. And she was talking, and I was kind of zoned out. And maybe it wasn't 25 years ago, because I think it was right around the time that my mom died. And I had brought up some topic about like grief, or I didn't know what to do and whatever. And she was talking and yada, yada, yada. And I kind of zoned out, and I turned and I looked at her, and she said something about like amazing grace. And that's all we can hope for is grace. And I just was like, whew. Like, it was so powerful to me in that moment, you know, this gift of grace. And never saw her again, never saw her before. This woman profoundly affected me because I started looking into, well, what is grace? You know, how can I accomplish grace on a daily basis? How can I do things in a graceful manner? How can I be a person that is graceful or thinks of things in a graceful way, you know? And it really changed my mindset and how I looked at things in life. So, you know what? This has been a really good meditation, and it really made me think about things. I'm happy that I read this today. And I don't think that I'm going to read the other ones because this one has been really that good for me. So I hope that you enjoyed it as well. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.